This video continues from our previous video, Council Maladministration, Malpractice and Misconduct 1. The following content has been taken from our previous videos, the Financial Abuse Part 2 and Failed S42 Safeguarding Inquiry by Worcestershire Social Services, but serves well as an introduction to this video. We currently have 9 bank statements from Edward and Lily Smith's joint account. From this information, we estimate that from November 21 to November 23, cash withdrawals could have amounted to £80,431. That is £113 per day cash over 712 days. We also have 3 bank statements from Edward's personal account, which together show total money out as £15,862. That is £5,287 per month over 3 months. Edward and Lily both had significant health issues, including cognitive decline. Considering they were essentially housebound, that sort of spending seems excessive and highly suspicious. So, where has all of this cash gone? Daughter, sole carer and lasting power of attorney Susan Smith appears to have spent it all on drugs, helping to fund crime in Worcestershire. She certainly does not seem to have spent it on Edward and Lily, who on 2 separate occasions were found wandering around their estate looking for food. On another occasion, they had been found at home huddled in blankets, with no heating and no food in their fridge. Since November 21, we have warned authorities countless times. Unless they worked together effectively and took urgent action, disaster would be inevitable. Sadly, that is exactly what happened, with Edward eventually collapsing in September 23 and being admitted to hospital unconscious and unresponsive.
Beverly, not Beverly, to find us
It's me, Dad. This is you're talking to. What do you want? What do you need?
Well, tell her we just need some food from her.
Okay. Where are you? Yeah.
Where's Mum?
Okay.
Where
are you? Hospital.
Yeah, where's Mum?
Okay.
Where's Mum?
Doesn't matter where Mum is.
Oh, doesn't it?
Okay. No. Bye.
When Edward was first admitted to hospital, he was so acutely ill we could not take any photographs of him. One shocked doctor rightly asked, how did this man get into this state? This photograph was actually taken after 4 weeks of intensive care, so you can imagine what he looked like before treatment. We duly notified authorities of Edward's admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital and the terrible physical state he was in. We also told them of our concerns he had been abused and neglected by daughter, sole carer and lasting power of attorney Susan. As mentioned in our previous video, Council Maladministration, Malpractice and Misconduct 1, their response appeared to be to embark on a complicated and elaborate cover-up, which would ultimately force them to protect and defend a despicable abuser of elderly, vulnerable people. Here are some of the highly questionable actions taken by Worcestershire County Council Social Services in response to our family reporting Edward's abuse to them. 1. They took Lily into care and refused to tell youngest daughter Beverly or any other member of the family where she had been taken. This was likely an effort to cover up injuries sustained during her abuse. Again, this is discussed at length in our previous video, Council Maladministration, Malpractice and Misconduct 1. 2. They ordered NHS staff at Worcestershire Royal Hospital not to divulge any medical information regarding Edward to concerned relatives, even including next of kin. This was likely an effort to cover up injuries sustained during his abuse, and this is what we will be discussing in this video. 3. They organised a sham S42 safeguarding inquiry under the pretence of conducting a proper and thorough investigation into the matter. There was no independent investigating officer and no proper involvement of the police, medical professionals or our family. This is discussed at length in our previous mini video, Failed S42 Safeguarding Inquiry by Worcestershire Social Services. 4. Finally, they took no effective action against Susan, who was left to carry on stealing property and cash, and perhaps to target other elderly vulnerable people as soon as her drug addiction demanded it. As mentioned previously, Worcestershire County Council Social Services ordered NHS staff at Worcestershire Royal Hospital not to divulge any medical information regarding Edward to concerned relatives, even including next of kin, and this was likely an effort to cover up injuries sustained during his abuse. But since Edward's death in December 24, and because general data protection regulations do not apply to the deceased, we have been able to obtain some of this information, and we have to say it makes for truly shocking reading. It certainly contrasts greatly with Worcestershire County Council Social Services account of Edward's physical state at that time. The following is from Worcestershire County Council's S42 Safeguarding Inquiry, dated 11th of the 1st, 24. I am able to report back to you that the inquiries found no factual evidence of acts of neglect or omission, and the following is from Worcestershire County Council's final report, dated 31st of the 3rd, 25. Social worker 2 stated that she spoke to the ward nurse. There was an unexplained reason, diagnosis, as to why Edward's blood pressure would suddenly drop significantly. The nurse confirmed that Edward was not dehydrated or emaciated, and the only treatment being given to Edward was oxygen due to the continued sporadic drop in blood pressure. The unexplained and undiagnosed concern for Edward in hospital was the sudden drop in blood pressure, resulting in blackouts, unresponsiveness. This being reported by social worker 3 and social worker 2, who confirmed that there were no other concerns reported to them by medical staff when they spoke to them. We are now going to prove that none of these statements from Worcestershire County Council social workers are true. It is also highly unlikely they were given this information by any qualified medical staff at Worcestershire Royal Hospital. The following information was readily available to Worcestershire County Council Social Services and should have been discussed during the first S42 safeguarding inquiry. However, instead of doing this, Worcestershire County Council Social Services made the decision to cover up this information. It is from Edward's 6-page medical discharge summary from his admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital on 24th of the 9th, 23. It contains a huge amount of detailed information in the form of medical abbreviations, acronyms and shorthand. Since we strongly believe Edward eventually died from injuries sustained during his abuse and was admitted to Worcestershire Royal Hospital with these injuries at that time, it is worth going over this information in detail, something which Worcestershire County Council Social Services has either failed or refused to do. Page 2, Clinical Summary. 88M found unresponsive, GCS3. This is the state Edward was found in at home by NHS paramedics. An 88-year-old male, unresponsive, with a Glasgow Coma scale score of 3. This is the lowest possible score on that scale and indicates a deep state of coma or even brain death. It signifies a critical, life-threatening neurological emergency. Page 1, Discharge Details. WRH, Aikenbury 4. This is the ward Edward was sent to for treatment at Worcestershire Royal Hospital, and it provides emergency medical care to patients who are acutely ill. Edward spent a total of 4 weeks on this ward, before going on to spend more than 6 weeks in rehabilitation at Princess of Wales Community Hospital. So, in complete contrast to what Worcestershire County Council social workers said, At that time, Edward's physical state seemed to be extremely concerning and even life-threatening. On one occasion, Edward was so close to death the consultant called youngest daughter Beverly to the hospital. In fact, he was so seriously ill she was compelled to make a do not attempt cardiopulmonary resuscitation decision with the consultant. Here are some of the serious health issues Edward had during his admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital on 24th of the 9th, 23. Ischemic stroke is a medical emergency. It can be fatal and can be caused by dehydration, especially in elderly people. Page 2, medical discharge summary. Question mark, seizure episode. This means Edward was suffering with seizures, but they were uncertain of the cause. Presumed ischemic stroke, treated conservatively. They made the presumption Edward was suffering with ischemic stroke, the most common type of stroke, caused when a blockage cuts off the blood supply to the brain, and they decided to treat him for this carefully. Page 2, clinical summary. Not for thrombolysis, OA history. Advised to monitor seizure activity. Thrombolysis is a life-saving medical procedure using special drugs to dissolve dangerous blood clots in arteries and veins. But they did not decide to give Edward this treatment because of his medical history. Instead, they decided to monitor his symptoms, which included seizures. Severe hypoglycaemia is a medical emergency. It can be fatal and it can be caused by malnutrition, especially in people suffering with diabetes. Page 2, clinical summary. 2 times episodes of hypoglycaemia on 12/10 and 1 episode on 13/10. Edward had 3 hypoglycaemic episodes, which are sometimes called hypos, during his time on the ward. These are caused by low blood glucose levels, which can be a sign of malnutrition. At the bottom of this box is Edward's medical history and a list of medical conditions he suffered with. IHD. This refers to ischemic heart disease, sometimes called coronary heart disease. T2DM. This refers to type 2 diabetes mellitus, a metabolic disorder leading to high blood glucose levels. It can damage blood vessels and cause coronary heart disease and stroke. Edward did suffer with coronary heart disease and, during his time on the ward, was suspected of suffering with stroke. It is important for people suffering with diabetes to have a good balanced diet and to keep their blood glucose levels within a certain range, not too high and not too low. Malnutrition would likely cause blood glucose to fall to dangerously low levels, which is what appears to have happened to Edward. Severe hypovolemic hyponatremia is a medical emergency. It can be fatal and can be caused by an addiction to laxatives, along with malnutrition and dehydration. Page 2, medical discharge summary. Hyponatremia, hypovolemic. Edward had hypovolemic hyponatremia, which occurs when body water and sodium levels are too low, and the loss of sodium is even greater than that of water. Edward suffered with constipation and became addicted to laxatives. We made authorities aware of this, along with his severe weight loss, but no effective action was taken. The following are extracts from a telephone conversation between Ian and an NHS healthcare worker, dated 30th of the 11th, 21, confirming both the NHS and Worcestershire County Council Social Services were aware of these issues.
Yeah, the social services, everything now.
Again, they're dealing with all of that. We're able to access their computer systems, social services, and it's all documented on there. So that you know they take.
He always has a shave. He's
Yeah,
very
he's unshaven. Yeah.
and he's very, very thin. He's about 6 stone, 6.5 stone. You know, you do know, it's on record, isn't it, that he's addicted to laxatives?
Yes, I know, and felt like that was becoming more we were in control. They were in control of that, but I don't know what's happening with that now.
Yeah, I've got to get in touch with social services about that because, again, it's a social services issue because it's getting out to neighbours, begging for laxatives and things like this, you see, because the neighbour came up to us and we were last there.
During a welfare visit on 2nd of the 8th, 23, youngest daughter Beverly found used and unused packets of laxatives all around the home. She also found glasses of premixed laxatives that had not been consumed. Edward's unresolved addiction to laxatives could easily have led to his hypovolemic hyponatremia. Hypoactive delirium is a medical emergency. It can lead to permanent brain damage and can be caused by malnutrition, dehydration and other health issues, especially in people suffering with dementia. Page 2. Medical discharge summary. Hypoactive delirium. Edward had hypoactive delirium, which could easily have been triggered by any of the health issues he had during his admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital. And because he suffered with dementia, he was always at greater risk of developing this dangerous condition. Page 2. Clinical summary. EEG. The background activity shows diffuse, non-specific slow wave activity. EEG stands for electroencephalogram, a test for measuring electrical activity in the brain. The results of this test, which was carried out on Edward, show non-specific slow wave activity, which could be an indication of hypoactive delirium or dementia. Just below this is Edward's medical history and a list of medical conditions he suffered with. Mild cognitive disorder. Way back in November 21, a GP from Corbett Medical Practice carried out the clock drawing test on Edward to give an indication of any cognitive impairment. He failed this test and could not read or understand his bank statements, but he was actually diagnosed by NHS doctors as having cognitive impairment well before that even, and was under the care of an NHS psychiatrist at that time. Ever since November 21, we have been telling authorities we suspected Edward had dementia, and it seemed to be getting worse. But they simply ignored us. They should have listened to our concerns and referred him to an NHS memory clinic for more comprehensive assessments. This would have ensured he received proper care and support for a health condition that was only ever likely to get worse as time passed. Page 2. Dementia or delirium diagnosis. During admission, the patient was identified to have suspected undiagnosed dementia. During his time on the ward, NHS doctors also suspected it was likely Edward had dementia and recognised it as being a potentially undiagnosed health condition. Page 1. Plan and requested actions. GP to consider referral to memory services. Yes. NHS doctors recommended that Edward's GP at Abbotswood Medical Centre refer him to an NHS memory clinic for more comprehensive assessments. This was something we had been trying to do since November 21. However, despite this recommendation from doctors at Worcestershire Royal Hospital and our continued efforts, Worcestershire County Council Social Services, Edward's GP at Abbotswood Medical Centre and Willowbank House Residential Home all failed to do this. The following is from Edward's care plan at Willowbank House Residential Home. Cognitive impairment. Edward does not have a formal diagnosis of dementia. Edward lives with advanced dementia. His communication and understanding is very limited. So, even at Willowbank House Residential Home, Edward remained without a formal diagnosis of dementia, even though it seemed to be at such an advanced stage. Furthermore, Worcestershire County Council Social Services ordered carers at Willowbank House Residential Home not to give Edward's family this information. Back to Edward's 6-page medical discharge summary from his admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital on 24th of the 9th, 23. Page 4. Information given. Information given to the patient and or family about dementia, delirium? No. So, Worcestershire County Council Social Services also appear to have ordered NHS staff at Worcestershire Royal Hospital not to inform Edward's family of his delirium and likely dementia. Edward suffered with recurrent falling and had some serious falls both at home and in hospital. This may have been because he suffered with orthostatic or postural hypertension, which caused his blood pressure to drop when he stood up after sitting or lying down. This could make him dizzy or even pass out. Again, the following is from Edward's 6-page medical discharge summary from his admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital on 24th of the 9th, 23. Page 6, previous attendances, 14th of June, 21, fall, postural hypotension, confirmed diagnosis. Page 3, medical discharge summary, referred to falls prevention coordinator, fell during hospital stay, 2 falls. The following are extracts from a telephone conversation between Beverly and an NHS healthcare worker dated 29th of the 11th, 21, confirming both the NHS and Worcestershire County Council Social Services were aware of this issue.
Yeah.
No, this is the plan, to have carers in the morning and night and to arrange social care. That is what I've been trying to do. And even in the past, my sister's agreed to it, but now it's actually come to a head since he's had this car crash, cracked his head into the wall, smashed the wall. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Well, you'll see it today. When you go in there, look to the left-hand side of the front door as you go in on the wall, and there's a big crack in the wall.
He said it to me on the phone. He found on the stairs.
Yeah.
Well, I asked him how he was after the fall. He said, "Oh, I'm all right now." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I fell down the stairs."
This is it. They just won't. They think I'm interfering, and all I'm trying to do is help them by getting, these pendants that they press if they fall, and those wrist bracelets, just things like that.
Edward suffered with severe weight loss, which may have been due to a number of reasons. He was elderly, suffering with dementia, addicted to laxatives, and not eating or drinking well enough. On one occasion, he was found to have no food in his fridge. His weight in November 21 was around 40 kilograms, which was highly concerning, since his weight was normally around 80 kilograms. We made authorities aware of this, along with his addiction to laxatives, but no effective action was taken. Consequently, these unresolved health issues may have eventually led to his hypovolemic hyponatremia, and we discussed this earlier on in this video. We also included extracts from a telephone conversation between Ian and an NHS healthcare worker dated 30th of the 11th, 21. Edward only started gaining weight properly when being cared for at Worcestershire Royal Hospital and later Willowbank House Residential Home, where he was treated for his malnutrition and fed special oral nutritional supplements to increase his weight and provide him with the necessary proteins, vitamins and minerals. We do not know Edward's weight when he was first admitted to Worcestershire Royal Hospital, and we could not take any photographs of him because he was so acutely ill, and we discussed this in the introduction to this video. But we did observe his cheekbones and ribs protruding significantly, and were reminded of horrific photographs taken at the end of World War II of the liberation of Nazi concentration camps. It was extremely upsetting. The photograph of Edward featured in the introduction to this video was actually taken after 4 weeks of intensive care, just before he was discharged to Princess of Wales Community Hospital for rehabilitation. At this time, we know his weight was just under 50 kilograms because we asked nurses to weigh him. This is a comparison of this photograph with one taken before his illness and demonstrates the severity of his weight loss at that time. Finally, the following is Edward's weight chart from his care plan at Willowbank House Residential Home. It shows Edward's weight increasing from 52 kilograms on 6th of the 12th 23 to 70 kilograms on 31st of the 10th 24, with him eating and drinking well. That is a weight gain of 22 kilograms whilst at Willowbank House Residential Home, and a weight gain of around 30 kilograms from when he was being cared for at home by drug addict Susan. So, there you have it, two wildly differing accounts describing Edward's physical state on admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital on 24th of the 9th 23, after being cared for at home for nearly 2 years by psychotic drug addict and criminal Susan, a person you would not even leave your pet hamster with. The first account, from professionals employed by Worcestershire County Council, one brief paragraph, bereft of any proper medical information, as if gleaned from the person selling tea and biscuits in the hospital foyer. The second account, from official hospital records, provided by Edward's GP at Abbotswood Medical Centre, 6 pages of solid medical information from the nurses, doctors and consultants who actually fought to save Edward's life. Furthermore, this is the information Worcestershire County Council Social Services desperately tried to hide from us. Edward's true physical state on admission to Worcestershire Royal Hospital. We only managed to obtain this information after he had died. Before that, the truth was deliberately hidden from us. They did not even inform youngest daughter Beverly that her father had dementia, which, in the vast majority of cases, is a terminal illness. This is extremely alarming and troubling behaviour from a local government authority whose actions often come across as being cruel and heartless. Actions which also seem to suggest a deliberate and determined cover-up from an organisation that appears to be well versed and practised in doing such things. Why did this local government authority fail to bring any of this information to either of the S42 safeguarding inquiries and to West Mercia Police? Why is Edward's dementia not mentioned once in any of their reports? Why was he not referred to an NHS memory clinic as recommended in his medical discharge summary from Worcestershire Royal Hospital? Surely this is all highly relevant, especially when you consider around £100,000 cash appears to have gone missing from one of Edward's bank accounts. It seems beyond belief, but we suspect that some of the professionals involved with this case and employed by Worcestershire County Council could be guilty of misconduct and even perverting the course of justice, and strongly feel their actions should be investigated by West Mercia Police. Furthermore, we have been forced to deal with this miserable and failing organisation for the best part of 5 years now, and it comes as no surprise to us that it is now having to beg nearly £72 million from central government, whilst at the same time planning to inflict a near 10% hike in council tax on its long-suffering residents. But if central government fails to cut out the cancer in this decrepit organisation, then they may as well flush this money straight down the toilet.